Hey, I'm Carmichael. I'm trying to become like an okay dungeon master, so that way I can eventually have the confidence to DM on this channel. And normally these episodes have a lot of stuff going on in them. Like we go from traps to NPCs to this to that. So I'm just gonna try to narrow this down and just jump into it. Today we're gonna talk about traps. To make a trap less of like, well, you see it, go ahead and roll a dex to dodge it. Cool, woo, you dodged it. And you can go ahead and tell people that there's a trap there and we can just avoid it, no problem. Skill challenge, make everyone do something, be a part of it. Super quick, please hit that subscribe button and hit that bell. If you're interested in supporting this channel even further, check out our Patreon. We have tiers at $2, $4 and above. You're able to get exclusive weekly vlogs and you're able to make NPCs that happen in our campaign stories. These videos come out every single week and I don't want you to miss a single one. If you can support them being made, I would love to put you in the credits too. Mechanically, a trap is a lock, a secret, or a trial. You know, a lock being you need a physical item to solve it. A secret, you need a piece of knowledge to solve it. And a trial is a physical challenge, a physical feat that you have to go about. And your traps usually have only one of three narratives. One, keep you out, 2, capture you, or 3, kill you. I think I should elaborate more on what the experience that I'm expecting for the players to have. So I have a whole bit for you. A few major things to keep in mind for when I run traps is failing forward, prep 3 outcomes, a trap initiative, surprise round that are basically skill challenges, second round skill challenge. Let's break that down to understand. Failing forward means like if you roll a 1, it isn't like insta-kill. It's kind of like Indiana Jones, where Indiana Jones was trying to jump over the pit in the very first movie, and he clearly rolled a 1, but rather than just dying, he slipped and held on. He rolls again to grab onto the plant, but he rolled pretty low, maybe not a 1, but pretty low, and it kind of pulls loose a little bit. One more skill challenge and he gets up and goes. He successfully rolled. I feel like that's an engaging experience. So that idea of failing forward, of like, how do I mechanically make sure I always enable that? But at the same point, still enable the trap to mess up the players as I intended it to do. First thing, after I know mechanically what it is and narratively what it's supposed to do, I have to prep 3 outcomes for my trap. 1, if the trap is triggered and the players fail. Okay, so that's basically what I actually intended the trap to do. I have to come up with, what if the characters succeed in avoiding it, disarming it, getting around it basically. Thirdly, the idea would be to kind of have something in the middle. That the trap has been triggered, but the players succeeded to not get hurt. It'll make sense once I get there. But those are the 3 outcomes that I want to think about. Trap initiative. Sometimes at the table, chaos is fun. Everyone's talking over each other. They're trying to figure things out, planning things out. Initiative, when we go into a combat situation, initiative doesn't really remove that as much as it allows people to organize their thoughts and be more strategic. This is basically a different way to run traps while using the exact same official game mechanics. It's just kind of nice organization. Basically, it's built off their passive perception, or if they choose, passive investigation. That's assuming that the character is someone who wants to be investigating instead of perception-wise. And all that does is change a little bit of the narrative or the flavor. How does that work? What I'm going to do is I'm going to try to gravitate their thoughts around the idea of initiative. I'll ask, hey, whose passive perception is above 20? Who's 15 to 20, 10 to 15, below 10, you know? And everyone says it out loud, so it's like a public piece of information. I asked it as if we were rolling initiative. So giving them this little bit of seed in the back of their head makes them kind of mentally prepared. So their passive perception is what's being listed like an initiative order. The trap's DC is the trap's initiative order. Make sense? In that initiative, everyone above the DC obviously succeeds. They're the ones who spot the trap. It's also their responsibility to let other people know that the trap is a trap. Everyone below the DC obviously fail. Let's say they're about to approach a trap. Trap 1's DC is right here. These 2 players passed, the rest of the players failed, which then rolls into the first of 2 rounds of a skill challenge. The goal with this skill challenge is not to trigger the trap. This does apply on singular levels and group levels. First round essentially kind of being a surprise round. The reason why I say a surprise round is everyone below the DC of the trap have a different thing going on than the ones who succeed. Kind of like being surprised. They pass the surprise of the trap. Players that pass the DC can do an action like disarm it, avoid it, dodge it. They get 6 words to communicate to their other players to help another player who failed the DC, so that way that person is going to roll with advantage. The others who did not see it coming, who failed that DC, are about to fall victim to it. This is the starting point of the skill challenge. So everyone who didn't pass the DC now have to do a skill challenge roll. So they pick a skill that they're proficient in, use that roll to pass the DC. And whether it's athletic, acrobatic, history, anything, arcana, it could be anything as long as they're proficient in it. You just also ask, how are they going to be using that skill? They roll that D20 plus that proficient skill, and let's see if they pass the DC of that trap. If they pass the DC of the trap on the surprise round, we'll consider it a success that they beat the DC. Those who fail the skill challenge trigger the trap. And if the trap is triggered, we go into round 2 of the skill challenge. This round, everyone goes. Same initiative order, which is, remember, it's based off that passive perception. So the goal in this round for those who succeeded is to save the failing player from the trap. Anyone can use any skill as long as somebody hasn't used that skill before. Any skills that were used in that surprise round cannot be used in this round. Every skill that a player uses in this round removes it from the possibility. Treating skills as a resource, they can be hanging on the edge of a cliff, they could be in the middle of falling, they can be actually caught and need help to get up. This all depends on your 3 possible outcomes. First, it goes to those who had a high enough passive perception to beat the DC right away. They go first. They get advantage on their roll. So they're trying to help that player get out of that trap. It's more likely to succeed. Those who had to roll to beat the DC in the surprise round, they just roll normal. And the one who rolled and failed, they have to roll with disadvantage. At the end of this round, the trap will go off. Any damages will be applied to the player who failed that surprise round. Players just use a skill that's available and ideally that you're proficient at to get your fellow player out of this trap before it goes off. Quick note, if all the players succeed the surprise round, I basically would still run a second round, but the second round is more of like a skill challenge to avoid it, disarm it, kind of get around it kind of situation. It's less of the stakes are high because someone's about to get hurt. It's more about the stakes are high. Let's just get around this. If it's a kill situation, I do have to say, maybe you should run one last skill challenge round, especially if they fail that. And that skill challenge will feel way different. That's pretty much it for traps. I think I beat that one to the ground. Next video, I'm going to go deeper with my NPC combat classes. I'm going to expand it to bosses and solo monsters, something that Matt Colville has talked about. You can probably see it right here, but I'm going to try to take his idea and apply it to the NPC classes. So it's just, if you're going to use NPC classes, it's an easy second plugin, like an extension. All right, that's it for me. Have a great game. I'm out. I forgot. I need you to subscribe, hit the bell, and do all those great YouTube things. Maybe check out Patreon. My God, I can't believe I forgot to do all